Hello everyone, my name is Zach and welcome to On Cash Flow, where I help you become a master of your own cash flow. Now let's get started. Let's first define what poverty is. The formal definition of poverty is lacks the financial resources and essentials for a minimum standard of living. Now I'm here to say that I think that someone who is financially independent can live on the federal poverty line, like that income level, and actually live a pretty comfortable lifestyle. I think that that is possible. So what are the poverty guidelines? Here is the poverty guidelines that I found, and they are for two people. It's going to be $17,420 per year, and that averages out to about $1,450 per month. So essentially, if you are living on $1,450 per month for a two-person household, then you are living right there on the cusp of the federal poverty guidelines. And I think that this is possible as like a lean fire strategy to live on that amount of money and still live a pretty comfortable life. But of course, there are some caveats here. Something has to be done. Now with those guidelines, how is $1,450 a month even possible? Well, let me take, for example, my budget that I first set up for the year of 2021. So in 2021, my budget was to spend only $2,000 per month, and that'd be $24,000 per year. Now that's a little bit more than $1,450 per month, but I think that I could theoretically, I don't want to, but I think that theoretically I could have taken that budget and I could have adjusted it down to $1,450 per month somewhat easily. But real quick, let me explain how I think that $1,450 would be possible for someone who is financially independent. Not necessarily for someone who is not financially independent, who actually earns and works and makes only $1,450 per month, for a two-person household. But someone who is already financially independent, this is how I think that $1,450 per month could be possible. First off, I think that having a paid off house is going to be very, very helpful in living on $1,450 per month. So no actual mortgage bill. Second off, similar to that, is having a paid off car. So owning just one low cost car. The car is going to be paid off, so there is no, car note to be paid here. Thirdly, having no debt, like no revolving debt. Credit card debt, no car loan debt, no mortgage debt, no other kind of debt. I think that that's going to make living off of $1,450 possible. Having a very, very low or no federal income tax or state income tax bill. And this is probably going to be automatically possible in most states. I think that most states have standard deductions, or most states are going to have very, very low income tax rates for someone earning that amount of money. So it's probably going to be negligible. Plus the federal standard deduction is over $25,000 now in 2022, and so this $17,000 that we're hypothetically making up here is less than that, and so you shouldn't owe any federal income taxes, and it's probably going to be very similar on the state level. Of course, you could also live in a tax-free state, so I think it's going to be a lot more possible to live on $1,450 a month if you don't have a federal or state income tax bill. And finally, you have to live in a low cost of living area in order to make this $1,450 possible and to make it not so miserable. So if you live in a downtown San Francisco, even if you had all those other things, it's probably going to be still difficult to live off of $1,450 a month because it's one of the most expensive places to live in the United States. But if you're living in somewhere in the Midwest, in a small town in the Midwest or in the South or something like that, like a low cost living area, it's going to be a lot easier to live off of $1,450 a month. One more thing I am going to add as well, lastly, is it assumes no children. So living off of $1,450 a month and it assumes no children, just a two-person household. Now let's get to it by actually adjusting my FIRE budget. So my $2,000 a month that I set for the year of 2021, let's adjust that down to make it match for $1,450 per month. But before we do that, there is one requirement that I have from you, and that is to like the video if you're liking this video so far. So it's going to make it possible to live off of $1,450 a month if you hit the like button on this video. So if you're liking it so far, please make sure you like the video. It really does help me out, and I really do appreciate that. But now let's get down to the numbers. Let's go ahead and adjust my prior FIRE budget down to $1,450 per month to meet the federal poverty guidelines. So as you can see on the screen, $2,000, that was my kind of general outline for my budget, and I needed $1,450 per month. So 2,000 minus $1,450, that means I have to find a way to cut $550 per month. And this is actually pretty easy looking at my budget. So you can see that I had a travel budget of $500 per month. Now, if we adjust that down to $200 per month to do a lot less traveling, that's going to subtract $300 from the budget. Now, another really easy one, you'll see a large category is entertainment, okay? And between two people, that is $500 per month. If we adjust it to $300 per month, that's gonna be negative $200. So far, we're already down negative $500. Now we just need to cut $50 somewhere. So looking at my phone bill, you can see that it is $100, and I could easily cut that down to $50 if I didn't have an unlimited plan. And so there is the extra $50 that we were looking for. So just by adjusting 3 things on my list, I could get my budget down to $1,450 per month. I would be meeting the federal poverty guidelines, and I would think that I would still be living a pretty good lifestyle while living in poverty, or having poverty spending, I should say. I'm not actually living in poverty, but actually having poverty level spending. Okay, because we had those first like caveats where we had a paid off house, a paid off car, where we had, you know, low taxes, low cost of living area. This is what's going to make it somewhat possible and actually allow you to somewhat like thrive in your life by living on such a low amount of spending. You might have looked at that $1,450 and be like, well, dang it, I still don't understand how it's possible. You might have looked at the $2,000 per month that I actually set for myself, and you still might have thought, whoa, how the heck is that actually possible? Well, let me let you in on the secret here, okay? So the secret to living on very, very low income while still having a very high quality standard of living, it's to get your fixed or your reoccurring expenses to be as low as possible. Try not to have things that are going to be charged to you every single month or charged to you every single year, kind of like regardless. Try to have those expenses to be as low as possible. If you can get those fixed expenses to be very, very low, then you can pretty much play around with a lot more extra money, you know, while you're building your budget. And that's what you want to be doing. You want to have the majority of your budget to be optional spending, to be discretionary spending, so that you can be flexible and you can adjust that up or down depending on what your goals are, depending on what your income is at that time, depending on if you're financially independent or not. All of this kind of accumulates into having low fixed expenses. Most notably, having low housing expenses, low transportation expenses, and low food expenses. So if you have all 3 of those major categories very, very low in the fixed expense department, then you can play around a lot with extra discretionary spending. And just for this example, $1,450 a month, you just have less discretionary spending because your fixed expenses are still very low, but you're just going to have lower discretionary spending, which means that you just have to find, you know, free or very low cost things to find entertainment for yourself, or low cost travel and things like that, which is very, very possible as well. And this leads me to actually a pretty cool thought experiment here. And this got me thinking, like, could I personally live on the federal poverty guideline? Could I live on that $1,450 a month? Could I make that adjustment to my budget? And the answer I came up with is yes. I definitely could live on that $1,450 per month. Now, I don't want to live on $1,450 per month. I don't want to live on the federal poverty guidelines, but I think that when push comes to shove, I actually could do so. And this is actually part of my, you know, dynamic financial independent plan, or however you want to call it. So adjusting my budget downward for significant market downturns is part of my personal financial independence plan. So I am actually invested 100% in stocks. And as you know, stocks are a lot more volatile than if you had a mixed portfolio of stocks and bonds. And I'm doing that for, you know, greater long-term returns. That's my personal reason for that. And I tend to have a higher risk tolerance. If there was a significant market downturn, like a recession or something similar to that, I would personally slash my expenses down by cutting out those travel and entertainment very temporarily until the market recovered. That is just one part of my financial independence plan. That's one way that I remain flexible. And that leads me to another question. I want to know in the comments below, what do you personally think, like where you're at right now in your lifestyle, what do you think is the personally like the lowest amount of money that you could live on per month? Like realistically, do you think that you could live on the federal poverty guidelines? Like if you're a 2-person household, do you think that you could live on $1,450 per month? Even if you are single, do you think that you personally could live on $1,450 per month, at least maybe temporarily, like for a year or something like that? I want to know from you in the comments below. Let's discuss. I'm actually very curious to know. And then after you're done leaving that comment, I have a really good video for you. I created a full guide to minimizing your expenses, like cutting your expenses very smartly so that you can achieve financial independence. If you have not watched that video, you 100% need to watch that video, okay? It's going to pop up right next to me. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm Zach from uncashflow.com, and I hope to see you next time.